Hey there guys, it's Hassan. Welcome to Turkish Realtor. One of the most common questions that I get from my clients is, well, Hassan, I'm gonna buy a new house in Turkey, and I found this one house and it's just so pretty. It's at the right location for me, and but its price is kind of funny, Like, should I really pay that price? Or my client would come to me and say, "So Hassan, I'm planning on selling my house, and how much should I charge for it? Like, what's the right price?" And some people would say, "Well, good sir, the right price is whatever price it is that somebody's willing to pay you for that property." Well, thanks, sunshine, but what is the real right price for a property? And that's what we'd like to talk about today. Okay, so here in Turkey, there are two kinds of prices for a property. One is called, and I want to really familiarize you with these two terms because you will run into them almost daily here in Turkey. Whenever you're trying to purchase a new house or whenever you're trying to sell your property. The first term that I want to familiarize you with is called the Guncel price, the Guncel Fiyat, which is which basically means the current value, and it is whatever value that you in your heart think is right for your property. Okay, and this is the value that you will see on real estate listing websites. That is, in English, I think, known as the asking price. Okay, it is in Turkish, we call it the Guncel Fiyat, Guncel Bedel, or Guncel Fiyat. And it just means the current value. The second that's the second term that I want to familiarize you with is called the Rayiç Bedel. Okay, Rayiç Bedel. And it basically means just fair value. It is the value that you base your taxing, the Rayiç Bedel is used for taxing purposes as well, okay? Or the taxable value of your house is very, very similar to the Rayiç Bedel of your house, okay? It's kind of derived from that. It's not exactly the taxable value of your property, but it is derived from that. It is very similar to that. It's going to be close to that. So the two terms are, again, the Guncel Fiyat, Guncel Bedel, which is the current value of a property, and the second term is the Rayiç Bedel, which is the fair value of a property, of your house. So whenever you're buying a new house, a new property, the price that you're going to negotiate, let's call it the negotiated price, the negotiated value of a property, that number is going to be somewhere between the Rayiç Bedel, which is going to be the lower end, and the Guncel Fiyat, the Guncel Bedel, which is going to be the asking price. So the negotiated price is going to be between those two values, Rayiç and Guncel. Rayiç will always be lower than the Guncel price. Okay, so in order to determine the right price for a property, we need to calculate the Rayiç Bedel, because knowing the Rayiç Bedel of our property will give us negotiating power whenever we're purchasing a new house. And again, knowing the Rayiç Bedel of our property will allow us to more fairly, or rather more intelligently, price our property that we're trying to sell, so that we sell it within a given, within a reasonable time frame. I mean, we can ask for, let's say, the proper value for a house is $1 million, okay? And if we ask for $2.5 million for that, yeah, at some point we may be able to sell that house, but it may take a long time. So knowing the Rayiç Bedel, the fair value of a house, will allow us to price our property, our house, more intelligently, in a way that is fair to both the buyer and the seller. So how do I calculate the Rayiç Bedel, the fair value? So there is no rule or law written on stone to go about doing that, but the most common practice is like this. So let's say that you are let's say that I'm gonna sell this house, okay, and I want to come up with a good number for it. At least I want to know how much it can actually be sold for. Before I can do that, I need to find out its Rayiç value, Rayiç Bedel, its fair value. So what I do is I try to find at least 3 very similar houses. They have to match the number of rooms, the somewhat match the location. If it's got a view, it has to match that. If it's got a garden, try to find houses with gardens. If it's got a garage, try to find houses with garages, and so on and so forth. Try to find 3 very, very similar properties in the same town, preferably in the same neighborhood, but in the same town, somewhere in the vicinity, so that location doesn't affect the price so much. So once I've found at least 3 such properties that are very similar to this one, what I do is I add the prices of those 3 properties, okay? And then I add the square footages, the square meterages, the net area of all those, each of those houses, those properties. And then I divide the total price of those 3, at least 3 properties, by the total square footage, square meterage, the total area of those properties. And then that gives me an average price per square meter, okay? And then I take that value, that per square meter price, and then I multiply my own house's total area with that, okay? And then that gives me a value which will give me the average price of this house in this neighborhood based on its neighbors, its own, based on the similar properties that are somewhat in the same ballpark vicinity of this house, okay? So that will determine the Rayiç Bedel, the fair value of this house. Of course, I'm not going to be listing this house based on its Rayiç Bedel. Nobody does that. The asking price will be much higher than that, perhaps because I'm emotionally attached to this house, perhaps because I believe it's got a better view than its neighbors, than those similar houses. Perhaps it's closer to places like schools, hospitals, public transportation, shopping centers, what have you. And those are actually important factors in determining the price of real estate. They are very, very important factors. So, but what happens is that by knowing the Rayiç Bedel, I can actually calculate the fair value, or at least a more intelligent, a more, I would say, informed value, and then list it at a, of course, higher price than that. And then, of course, I would have to also leave myself negotiating headroom, because the seller will probably not want to buy the house at the asking price and will have to ask for a discount. Rightfully, everybody does that here in Turkey. So I have to give myself some headroom as well, okay? And then I have to also remember that I have to pay the real estate agent 2%, plus another 2% for taxation purposes. And the buyer would do the same. They would also pay 2% to their real estate agents, and then 2% for the taxes and fees. So both the buyer and the seller have to meet those requirements at the tapu, whenever they go into the government to for the transfer of the title deed. But I digress. So, like I said, the Rayiç Bedel can go up and down depending on what sort of house it is, how many, like what the what's happening within the real estate sector during those months that you put the property on the market. It may depend on your area's crime rate. It may depend on your area's, if there are any major projects that are coming in town. Like, let's say if they're going to be building a new hospital or a new school or a new shopping center or new cinema, new what have you, right next to your house, that's probably going to, you know, shoot up the price of your property in comparison to those other 3 properties that you used to, in order to calculate your Rayiç Bedel, your fair value. So logically, the price of your property will go up whenever some new purchasing factor, some new attraction is coming near your property. So another thing that I would like to talk to you about is how a lot of people try to make Rayiç Bedel look as low as possible. Now, a lot of people are guilty of that, myself included, I guess, but you probably shouldn't do that. And there are some very compelling reasons for that, and actually a lot of reasons. But I will only mention two of them. And the first one is if you're buying your property as an investor, if you're planning on selling your property, say 3 years, 5 years down the road, then showing to the government a lower Rayiç Bedel will actually limit your selling price down the road. Okay, so if your property is deemed a luxury property, or if it's deemed like a lower income property, then different laws, different selling laws will apply to it down the road. So if according to government record keeping, if the government's computers show that your property was purchased at a very low price, and then now you're trying to sell it at such a higher price because you didn't value it fairly 3 years ago, 5 years ago, now you're not going to be able to sell it at the desired price range down the road, because the government may actually cap your price based on zoning and other laws that may come into effect down the road. And another reason to not determine the Rayiç Bedel so low, or not to report it so low, is because of insurance, actually, which is very important. Now, the government requires DASK insurance, which is the earthquake insurance. And here in Turkey, we get a lot of earthquakes, and a lot of houses are at risk because of that. But it's also it may also be fire insurance, or like flood insurance, or burglary insurance, what have you. Okay, so if the insurance company thinks that your house is only worth 10 liras, and then something actually does happen to your house and you need like 20 liras, then sorry, but you're only getting coverage for 10 liras. Okay, and that's not going to be good on you. So there are some really good reasons for reporting a fair value, okay, a fair Rayiç Bedel, and you shouldn't make it as low as possible for taxing purposes. Okay, it may sound like a good idea whenever you're first, getting your property, but down the road you're gonna suffer from that. Okay, you have to pay off for that difference, if not more than the difference, over time. So those are the things that I want to mention. You can also check Rayiç Bedel online. Okay, there are some municipalities, actually I believe all the municipalities now offer that service. So if you go to the website, if you go online, go onto the website of your local municipality, they will have a section there that if you put in the tapu information, your title deed information on their website, it may be able to give you a pretty accurate Rayiç Bedel value right there on the computer online. Okay, a lot of real estate agents, a lot of real estate advisors like myself will offer that service for free if you're my client or if you're their client. And insurance companies, of course, do that as well, and banks do too. Whenever you're applying for for credit for purchasing a new house, they will calculate that Rayiç Bedel for you. And of course, their sample size is a lot more than 3 houses, so it may actually be a little more accurate. So that's all I have to say in this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you like these videos, please make sure to give it a thumbs up if you like it. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Please do subscribe. Please, if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comment section. I love to read your questions and answer them as best as I can. And thanks again, guys, for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.